How come I need to try to do this on my
Hi, everybody. Calvin's having trouble seeing everything. I'm TJ,
I'm Calvin.
and this is TidalWave, episode number 5. Can you believe it?
I can.
You can. You're like I've been helping planning this. Yeah, and this week we kind of decided on mentoring and yeah, kind of bringing that into the forefront now. So yeah, do you want to tell everybody who our guest is today?
Yes, our guest is actually one of my mentors. His name's Casey Johnson, and we met actually back in the early 2000s in Virginia. And he is like the catalyst of me unlimiting myself and knowing and starting the path and seeing art the way I do and expressing it the way I do. You know, he is that.
And if people were following, they know that we've talked about him on a couple of podcasts that we've been doing.
Yeah.
So tonight it's all about mentoring, how we see it, how we want to shape the next generation, and all of those things. So stay put, and we'll be back talking to you a little bit more about mentoring.
Welcome to TidalWave, a whole new level of entertainment and showbiz experiences. Knowledge, culture, influence, and art. Our conversations will leave nothing off the table. We'll make a wave with our stories and give you the insights you want and need. So prepare to catch the wave and go with the flow. Please welcome your hosts, TJ Tekurio and Calvin Cooper.
We're back.
We're black.
Well, you are. Yes, so I'm so excited. Fifth one, Calvin and I decided we were going to do 8 of the series. Yes. That was a really good number, and I'm so glad that we did, and brings us over the hump. And what better way to celebrate going over this hump with kind of bringing on mentoring and talking about mentoring. What does mentoring mean to you, Calvin?
Mentoring to me is someone who is the living word of whatever they preach and believe in and able to show, but also have the power to, I guess, what is it, like have that objective view? Is that what you would say? Like they know where their influence lies, but they also know how to make sure that you stay on your path. That is true mentorship.
Yeah.
You know, they know how to find balance of when to tell you do not and when to let you find out and be there to explain and help. You know what I mean? And be
completely also
that like, it's that conscious, it's that discipline. It's like that steadfast discipline, and it's that foundation. It's that foundation.
No, I couldn't agree more. And for me, I always feel like mentors for me are people that didn't really even know that they were mentoring.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like a fun journey. So it's all these people. Hi, Erica. I just see that she popped on, and she just is loved.
I can't wait till I can find out how to look at this. Maybe I need to figure out this computer. Like
maybe. Yeah. So people that for me don't even realize that they're mentoring, that's the best part, because they're just advising you, and they're kind of just living off of the word that they live by, and that's something that they pass on unknowing that they're being mentors to people. So I think that's super, super important for me. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we bring up, here comes Dickie. Yes, I know Dickie.
Dickie,
What? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Dickie just got a brand new car. I saw it. I saw it in pictures, not in real life.
Come on. I love you in this pink Cadillac, crushed velvet seats, riding in the back, grooving. Girl, that used to be my track, girl.
Yes.
Come on, Dickie. You know what? No, you know what? I think it's time to just bring on Casey, because at the end of the day, it's like like I was saying earlier, like when we were prepping, it's amazing to have this type of artist, this type of entrepreneur, this mentor, this brother, this uncle, this patriarch, but also maternal spirit, this balance. To me, he is an experience. And that's the thing. And what I love about him is he's a truth sayer and a truth seeker, because he will hold you to your words, which is what it's the living word. And so I think that we should just bring on Casey Johnson. Like, Oh.
Pew, pew, pew. Welcome, Casey Johnson. Pew, 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 pew.
Hi, guys.
Hi, welcome.
This is the best. See, how come I can't get a whole few? See, I need to learn. I need to take like I don't know, ITT tech class or something. Shoot.
Maybe you just need to swipe. See if you can swipe. See what happens to swipe. You're either going to disappear or you're going to see more people.
Nope, it's all three of y'all. I mean, all three.
If you can see us?
I can see all three of us. I say all three of y'all.
Good. Perfect.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, President Trump. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Casey, welcome. Tell everybody what you do, who you are. Tell us your greatness.
Ooh.
As many words as you want.
Oh, I am an extension of Source Energy that has chose vessel to try to find truth. Truth in everything, you know? And it's been a journey. And as I go along the journey, I try to share that experience gently with other people. Yeah, that's how I am. What I do for work, per se, is I'm a creative consultant. My primary client is Norwegian Cruise Lines. And I curate 2 ships for them, the Norwegian Pearl and the brand new Regent Splendor. So we just did a trip to Italy right before COVID happened. I was on the west coast of Italy. I missed that whole region that was affected there in February, like late January, February. But yeah, we put on 5 brand new shows. It was amazing. Yeah, and then also my pivot for COVID was moving one of my lifetime goals up, and I got my real estate license out here in Arizona. So yeah, instead of forcing creativity, I chose to rest that part of my mind and soul and look for how I might, you know, do something else that I really enjoy. So about 2 years ago, I moved to Arizona and I had a house built, and I enjoyed the process so much that I want to be a catalyst for other people to, like, I guess, pull the trigger on a life goal, get their finances right, get their mind right for home ownership. And if it's for you, I want to be the one to help you. So that's kind of what I started doing out here. It's been really fun. So
now, before we jump into creative mentorship, I want your advice on something. If I'm like on the fence, I'm 50-50 about buying a place. And I don't know if I want to settle down. Not if I want to settle down, because I do want to settle down, but I'm not quite fully there yet. What words could you tell me?
Well, first and foremost, I would say you just have to sort of like zoom out. And I say this to everyone, like, zoom out. I think you nailed the head, like staying still, like deciding, okay, for the time being, for the near future, at least the 7 years, from now until 7 years, I want to stay where I'm at, and I want to capitalize on possibly creating wealth. But what I say is, by zooming out, it'll allow you to like take a look at your spending habits, the way that you look at money, and the way you look at like settling, like you said, settling down. And I want you and everyone who's listening to understand that there is such a thing as a lifelong renter. Like, homeownership is not for everyone, and that doesn't mean that you're incapable or you're inadequate in any way. It's just the way that you choose to lead your life and navigate through this world. You find yourself doing better when you're not encumbered by a mortgage or the responsibility of holding a house.
Lifelong renter. I like that.
So it's a real thing. My parents were lifelong renters. So in me engaging in home ownership, I'm sort of like breaking that cycle. But what I liked about that was that worked for them. They had a more of a sense of security out of that. And it allowed me to like sort of dive into it. Like I bought like Home Ownership for Dummies, Home Buying for Dummies, read that. I read books, I listened to podcasts, and I dug for the research. And when I felt like I could do this, I did it. But it was a 3-year plan. And it felt right. It didn't feel like I didn't feel pressured. It was like, this is just the right timing. So there is a right time, and don't worry whether it's right or wrong. Like, just be still, zoom out, and kind of listen. I think more listening you do, the more you'll be able to hear whether it's right for you.
I think zooming out. I think zooming out is an important aspect, especially now, because we've all had to make that choice. Either we were going to zoom out and kind of refocus our life, or we were going to not. We were just going to not, you know? And I think Calvin and I, upon like this entering the pandemic, we entered with so much uncertainty because, well, one, we weren't sure what was gonna happen, but we also had lost our best friend. So it was kind of this weird transitional time. And I know Calvin was had mentioned a lot about you, and about, we kind of all at least reflected about our mentors. So this was kind of an appropriate step for us to do in starting this podcast and inviting people on. But I'll stop gabbing about home ownership, but so that Calvin can start taking away about mentoring.
Oh, I mean, no. First of all,
TJ, wait, before we go on, TJ, when you're ready to buy, let me know, and I will get you connected with the right person.
Perfect.
Yes, you better come through now. Okay, sorry, I'm also into this lip gloss.
Look at that juicy moisture. It's so good. Because
my mother said if your lips are chapped, then that means your mouth is dry, and if your mouth is dry, your breath stink, and if your breath stink, then that means that. And so,
okay.
And so that's why I'm like, they gotta look juicy, moist. There is moisture in his throat.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, you're like, see, I always love when I take it there. You be like, what have you done? You have unlimited me. That's what I say. But no, one of my favorite things is like how we met is I'll say very much like, I felt like you were like Debbie Allen and I was the character of Leroy. Because just so everyone could be aware, we met at Busch Gardens theme park, and it was actually by circumstance that I was singing. It was the YMCA section, and it was like think of this like humid early morning. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's that like no one's in the park, and we're like, you know, everybody like peeps out of the tent to be like, you know, are we about to have to like run this like a dress rehearsal? You know what I mean? That kind of vibe. And we see clearly gay, but like four men like sitting together, like 4 or 5 people sitting together. And I was like, oh, they about to eat this up, because that's how we knew it was going to be live. So we're performing, we're doing our thing, whatever. YMCA comes. Well, I was performing with the time in my cast, Jeremy Jordan, and he was on vocal rest. So I had to sing both parts of YMCA, and I'm singing, I come running down the aisles, and I give him my best leather daddy and my Wilson's leather cap and stuff. And I'm singing it like, was it like Alex Chaney's like dad or something? Like I was all up in like, there's no place you can go. I was giving him the most, in that he finished the show, whatever. We sit outside where, you know, they can meet the cast. And then Casey like chatted and was like, oh, there's an audition. And I was like, what audition? Because this was also before, like I was just learning how to dance. And my mentors, who were my teachers, were the managers at Busch Gardens. So you see how it was like this, and you just saw the potential. And I was like, okay, I'll show up. And when I showed up to the audition, he like met me at the door and said, did you bring your sheet music? And I said, sheet music for what? And I said, why would I bring sheet music? He says, because you sing. I said, no, I don't. I'm just a dancer. He goes, oh, you just a dancer? And he turned and he walked into the studio. And I was just like, because I didn't know anything about auditioning. Like, so anyway, we get to the audition whenever we meet. Cool. So then shoot 2, I actually quit school. I get to, was it Kim Stowe? What's her name? And she hires me, whatever. Then when Casey's watching a class, I noticed him, and Darren at the time was telling me about him. But then we go to Vegas and we meet on the bus, and I was in awe. And then it was one of my favorite things was we were talking about Hair, the musical. And it was in this conversation, and this is when I got to notice his artistry, because we both started to geek out about the Asian girl on the steps with the boots, and we were like, yes, in the bomb, and I was like, you look at art the way that I wanted to learn how to express. And I was so raw that you were willing to polish me, because you knew I was rough around the edges, girl. I was that banjo girl. But it's like, I want to talk about first, like, what first got you inspired? You know, what I want to start there. When you grew up, where did you grow up, and what was entertainment, and how was it introduced to you?
I grew up in Long Beach, California, and music has always been a big thing in our family. My Aunt Patricia plays the guitar and sings. My mom, not much a singer, but she did choir at church with her cousin. My grandmother was an avid jazz enthusiast. When my mom was growing up in Chicago, like, my grandpa and my grandma would always go listen to live music all the time. So like Ella Fitzgerald was her jam. So I was introduced to these people. My mom, she'd listen to Phoebe Snow and Helen Reddy. I mean, poets, just people singer-songwriters that got to the crux of emotion and was able to express through music what everyone was feeling. And so on Saturday mornings, we'd all get up after cartoons and cereal. It was time to do chores, and my mom would throw on some cleaning music, because you got to get into a cleaning mood. Later in life, I was able to discover through Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, which we'll talk about later, that was her engaging in active doing. And it helped her get in the zone, get in the mood. You are actively doing what you're doing. And so that, I think music was always connected to active doing, which then made me feel like I was somehow touching on something that I was meant to do. So I never wanted to be in entertainment at all. Like, I just happened to be in Newsies, the movie, Encino Man, the movie, because I went to Los Alamitos High School, which was home of OSHA, Orange County High School. I never was in OSHA, but all my friends were. And a lot of my mentors were teachers in OSHA that I would, like, by proxy through friends, just through like doing the spring musicals, gleaned a lot of knowledge from them. And so a lot of who I am today as a director and as sort of a friend / mentor, sounding board for artists, is sort of just a byproduct of those who inspired me. Because I, again, 4 left feet when I first started. I could not, if it saved my life, I'd be dead. Because, I mean, no extension, sickle foot, no, but love tap. Like, 13 years old, took a tap class with my sister. She had a baby. She wanted to lose weight. I took an adult tap class with her because the movie Tap was, and Gregory Hines was king and all that. That's sort of like how it went. Although I loved art, and I geek out, like that hair moment that you're talking about, Calvin, that was me and my brother on every single movie ever we watched. We would watch it. My brother could watch a movie one time and be able to recall 5 years later nuances and detail that most people didn't even catch. And you were like, how do you remember? He goes, I was there with you. I was doing it. My brother doesn't dance. He's an artist. He plays the guitar. He's a visual artist, absolutely amazing visual artist. And it's like I said, it was all like running in my family. One of my cousins is a drummer, and he was the original drummer from Sublime, Marshall Goodman. My cousin Kellen sings the crap out of any song. So very talented family in the arts, but like not in a show-offy way, like a true appreciation for sort of the alchemy and the magic behind visual arts, music, dance, acting, drama, and film, I think.
When you guys are thinking about, sorry to jump in, when you're thinking about somebody in your early career who was a mentor for you, what kind of traits do they have that you didn't really recognize until being older?
Calvin?
Child, you the guess.
Okay. So first of all, great question, Calvin.
I'm gagged. I was like, who?
I really think this is where, as a person looking to receive mentorship, you can, again, zoom out and you can clock people who really have something to offer that have no agenda. So my mentors were not busy. They weren't aggressive. It just so happened they would drop a little nugget, but the timing, like when they would say it, I'm a sucker for colloquialisms and like sayings. Like my life is all about mottos. Like my motto is I will persist until I succeed because Kant lives on Won't Street.
Hello.
It's encompassing. It was always Kant lives on Won't Street. I got it from the movie Flawless with Philip Seymour Hoffman. He is brilliant in that movie anyway, but I love that. It's like I spent the majority of my youth saying, oh, I can't do that, or that's not for me. I can't. And what I realized was that I wouldn't. And then persistence is key, right? So I find that my mentors that had a high impact on me were ones that were there and consistent, but they were not pushy or aggressive. And they sort of, like Calvin said, they're the living word, almost like a compass by which, they don't really know. I don't know. It's like they don't have like an agenda or this time clock that they're trying to punch and get things from or for you, but their word is right on time every time. And I think it's just because they zoomed out themselves. They found a stillness around you as you're trying to grow and find, I don't know, where you belong and how you fit in. Find your voice, essentially, as like a human being and as an artist. I think those are the people. And it was like, I it's like, TJ, as you know, we talked together for several years.
Many.
Many. And so it's a fine line between giving information and over-noting, like giving overly. And stiletto, I hate to say this, but I was told once, stiletto is known for blah, 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 fill in the blank. And I was like, okay, this is when I was new there. But what I learned was we all sort of like found that you do a broad stroke and then you put the meat on, right? That was one of my mentors from Disney, Roger Castellano. He was all about broad strokes, giving the company a foundation on which to stand, identifying things in the environment so that they can co-create with you based on what was, created by the original cast. I think we have some original cast members tuned in. Erica, hello, you've been with me if you're still with us all week. Just as a side note, and I hate to digress, but I have to say this. Erica, you've been with me all week because I'm binging Private Practice. And you, to me, are the white Audra McDonald. Like, there's something about your mouth, your eyes, the beauty that you shine. Like, and every time I see her, she's my favorite character, my favorite actor on the show. And I always think I was like, that's so Erica. Anyway, and Dickie Wolfpack. That's all I have to say. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. Where was I? What were we talking about? Oh,
no, you were talking about
overnoting. So I find that at Stiletto we had to overnote because there was so much material. There was so much, and we needed to get all of those. We need to get flesh on the bones prior to going on the ship, because once we got on the ship, it was all about the tech, right? And people falling in. We always had stories about people falling in the pit. We wanted to avoid that. But I learned, like, after so many installs, you just get better at giving the information soon. So it's like, I don't want to just fill this. I got 4 pages of notes because I'm every little thing, but back then I was still kind of growing as a director. So I knew I had to get all of those things addressed. So now it's a little bit more, when I'm going into teaching, I might give a little bit more information in a way that is not overwhelming or doesn't get their bucket full, as we would say.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the notes, it's more about like fine tuning what's already there. Versus like
this is.
I just want to pop on real quick, just because I saw somebody jump on, and it's Jill Hillier.
Oh,
I know.
Yes.
Because I did an article for Shout Out Magazine, and I was able to. We talked about our mentors, and actually Jill was one of them that I brought up. And it's funny that you're talking about Stiletto, because you and I worked so well together and we did so much together there that we kind of built this like a teamwork together that was so beneficial for so many more people. I think the team that we because we were able to share information and we knew levels of who was going to take care of what and what was going to come through. So the process for all of it was something that we developed ourselves. And looking back, it's kind of something like we didn't agree to have you do this, me do that, but it just kind of like organically came through. And that's kind of what it sounds like for you, is like with your mentors, like they kind of just organically gave you information, and at the right time they dropped that bomb of information on you, and you were just like, I got it.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to say, I talk about this moment from my favorite show all the time, because this is how Casey came to me and asked one question in the note session. That wasn't a note session, but he came to me and asked this one question, and the way that it echoed through the rest of the show, because we were teching, it's like this moment. So we were in the beginning of Stage and Screen, my favorite show. And I was like, I think M4. And there's the moment where, the camera, the director, the M1 and the M2 are on one side of the stage. And so there's not really much going on this side of the stage. And I was standing there literally like counting 1, 2, 3, like just waiting. And he clocked me and he came over and not belittling me, it was just like, he goes, I have a question. What kind of actor are you? And I said, huh? And he goes, so if you notice the cameras there, and then he gave me the information that I never realized, because again, this is my first my first job was Busch Gardens, so there was not much of a set. It was the set. So he's explaining to me these set things in our costume, and just asked that question and said, "Are you the type of actor that's waiting to notice the camera? Are you that?" And he gave me valuable questions to ask and made me feel comfortable to create this character. And then when we got to what's that hat off song? You could leave your hat off, whatever. And there's that moment of, I was like, oh yeah, who am I? What kind of guy am I? Like it echoed through every scene when we weren't being told what to do, but it was just get to your numbers first and make. But what I also, this word that I say, I haven't found it often, but with you, Jill, John, Kate, like just all y'all, I felt safe in every aspect. I felt safe to create. I felt safe to attempt. Like, oh, y'all did not play with safety. He was like, no, we will talk mechanics first. And I was like, yes. Like, I was like, oh, yeah. And I trusted. I mean, y'all taught me Spanish web. It was this safety, because, when you knew, because we built things together too, and you still saw how you brought your knowledge from other installs and was like, okay, I have created before again. And the way y'all would communicate with us, it was so raw, real open. Like when y'all would go outside for about 5 minutes, we're going to finish this choreography. We'd come back in and it was magic. And it's like, in the way y'all could read us, y'all was like, we know you're exhausted. Just hold on. Like the way you made us feel safe, because we also knew we had a job to do. So because we felt safe, I could also go, okay, I feel safe enough to go, I need help. I'm not, and y'all were like, here's the information. Here's your, you know what I mean? Because we're messing with pits and lifts. I didn't feel scared about nothing. I never worked with pits, and I just wanted to thank y'all. And that's what I carried. So when my transition went to Radio City, I was like, to me, it just made sense, because I was like, oh, safety matters. They care about us. There's no reason why we can't do it, because you can, because can't lives on one, the way you was. And I was like, I just have to thank y'all. And I talk about it all the time, but that one, that was one of those Casey moments where I was just like, what kind of actor am I? Hold on.
Yeah, and I think you bring up that good point, Calvin. It's like something that you didn't necessarily think, and I don't think Casey thought as well that it was going to affect you in that trickle down sort of feel. Just real quick, I see Megan and Aaron are both watching, and they're kind of some originals that you were talking about before. Also, Sarah was like an OG for some things. Like I remember Sarah was one of my very first people that I ever taught. She's got this like last name. She got married.
Blonde hair?
Yeah, blonde hair.
Sapporo!
But you also know Lavana. Lavana and I went to school together. Lavana Anthony.
Lavana Duncan, honey.
I knew her as Anthony.
Woo! Nobody could touch that walk. Let me tell you. Yeah. When she comes down those stairs, baby, she's like, put some bass in that walk. And when that head was and she looked in the front, I lost it.
And of course, Bernard is watching. Bernard is Bernard is he was on with us last week. Hey y'all, hi Lavana. But you guys are right. I think you guys brought up a few key words that I think are important. Consistency is what you said, Casey. Safety and communication. I think those were the things for me when I'm looking back at my mentors, is like these people were communicated so well and so clearly that I could understand at a level that I didn't need to ask a question. I felt safe in their presence, that I could create something and not feel bad or ridiculed. Even if it was going to be, if I was going to get judged by them, it was going to be a safe place to get judged. But they were consistently, from beginning to end, even now I look back on a few of them, they've always been that way. They've never right or left.
My favorite was the first time, like, and I just love how old school this was. Like when you got your contract and it came with the DVD of like the music and stuff, and you had to come in off book and you're all like, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. Like I remember like coming in, and then we would sit with Rob. And when he would show us influences, I was like, my mind, because first of all, like when I tell y'all Benji, like I Aqueduct projects, like, you know, first of all, Black entertainment, like I said, Gregory Hines, that was just, it wasn't musicals to us, it was just entertainment, but still not knowing and getting history from where I was. So like having Rob just not knowing how he was blowing my mind of like, this art exists, and then seeing a person of color like tell me, you just a dancer? Okay. Well, what kind of actor are you? Like the way you just, I was like, it's like literally like I worship Kiki Shepard because she was the goddess to me. And it was like that. Like I remember watching you, like when you would wear these like Adidas pants, y'all in these damn Adidas stripes, you, John. And when you came in with these Adidas stripes, I was like, oh, we finna dance, y'all. Y'all better warm up. And don't get Casey. I used to be like, I have to keep up because you also could show what you were talking about. It's those moments. So watching the inspirations and how you knew, and you're like, this scene, but and I was just like, yes. Oh, okay. You knew how to give that information because like I said, how many times I would be in the middle of Jill being able to explain a lift to me that I would be doing it to her as she's talking, and where she felt safe enough for me to feel safe enough to try it. I was not scared. Y'all said hesitation kills, and it does. It's like either you're gonna go for it or not. You like, we're not playing, and I was like, yeah, there's no giggling before no. And I was like, work. It's the cheerleader that was in. Like y'all can't touch the letter. Sorry, y'all. If y'all I don't care if nobody come at me. Don't care. But I'm like you Casey, you remember, this is another moment. Remember this? Okay, so I decided to move to LA, and I was like, I'm gonna try to live up in here. And at the time, I was trying to get this money from this competition because I had to pay for my cell phone bill. And so I was like, oh, I got this competition. And the way I came into the studio, and you said, let me see it. And I said, what? And you said, let me see what you got. Because I explained to you how there was like this night. You said, okay. And then the fact that you said, well, is it a theater in the round type setting? Like, what is it? And I was like, oh, well, and he was like, well, why are you only performing? And I was like, oh, like you opened my mind with simple questions that never made me be like, why don't you know? It was just always this. I felt safe to come to you, and you never like also go, you have to do it this way. And you never did that. You said, what are your strengths? And that you was like, what do you tell me? You are what you say. And I was like, yeah. And it's just, ooh. And I love the people that I've met that have problems with you, or the people who just weren't ready to step to that plate, and it's okay. And you also let them know it's like, it's okay, sweetheart. You just have to know what you're asking for. And that's why I was like, see, if you ain't listening, you ain't gonna catch it.
Yeah. I think my head is in the same competition that you are. Is this the same competition that you went first and you also just won? They were just like,
Casey said, when we had to pick numbers, he said, whatever you do, don't pick first. And I came with it back. I said, I got number one. You said, we gonna set the bar so high.
You better live your life. You better leave it all on the stage to the part where people are gonna be slipping on you.
Yeah, and that's what happened.
That's all I have to say.
You came out and you were on the top. You were the first one, and you won the
competition. Idea I had the fan.
Whatever you do, don't be first. I think first.
but
that's what I'm saying.
You taught me yes and, because you said okay. But it was like, because the thing about it was, in a way, it was like no nonsense, but it was also like, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be, because trust you. You know what you gonna do. And I was like, yeah, like, because like I said, it was a way to usher me to decide, well, then what am I going to set the bar to? You know what I mean? You said you have that control. How bad do you were just that Debbie Allen force, that Grace Jones just.
Grace Jones.
No, for real. Like these mentors, like Casey we would ride in Casey's hot ass black car, just in that heat, having me suffer. But you'd be like, listen to this. Listen to Kiss of the Spider Woman. This is Cheetah Rivera. Make sure and you would tell me these things because I was already there and going, I want more. And you knew how to bring it to me without overloading me. You always just found a way of balance. And the way you would always tell me to sit down. So you're like, yes, you're hungry, but sit down. What do you have right now? Think about, and I was just like, oh, I was getting lessons being thrown left and right that was just this like beam.
What I kind of like starting as an artist for me, Calvin, like where that all comes from is starting late in life. As boys do, they say, oh, boys can start late and they can just be like first class to professional. And it wasn't that for me. Like I had to study the craft like a class. So I was straight academic. This is before internet and YouTube. So I went to the library and I checked out all the videos. I'm old. Not as old as some, but like I am pretty old. This is true. So VHS, I would rent VHS. So 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, Oklahoma, La Bayadere, Le Corsaire, like all of these ballets. And then I would go and get the ballet vocabulary book and the ballet anatomy book. And I would highlight and I would read. And I started taking ballet to get better in jazz because it's all foundation. So it was like all academic at first. But what I learned early, and this was from Liza Minnelli, is play the why, right? So that's why I said, what kind of dancer are you on this set? This is a live filming, like a set. And you are playing a role to paint the bigger landscape and the bigger picture. So are you vying to be understudy? Are you looking at the lead? Are you infatuated with the Anne Margaret or the lead? Or like, what are you doing besides chewing the scenery over there? These are the things that you need, like that I learned early that were my favorite part of being on stage. And I loved dancing, but I loved telling a story. And so the only way you could tell that story is if you catch what the purpose of the scene was and how you fit in that. So you have to ask yourself, why am I crossing the stage? Why am I waving? These are all the questions that you ask as an actor, but that's because you're playing a part in the big picture, which is ultimately holding a mirror up to the audience saying, this is you, this is us, right? So if you're an empty shell of a human being or an entity on stage, you're like a non-event, as we say. So to make yourself stand out, but not in an egregious way, in a way that supports what we're trying to say, that was most important. So that's where those questions came from. And from an acting standpoint, you get Uta Hagen's 9 questions, which I didn't know then, but I know now were important to John Sharon. So he wanted you to know what time it was. So when you came in for the trolley, Are you late? Are you on time? Because that's going to inform how you come into the scene. And your scene starts in the wing. It ends after, it starts before you come on the wing and on stage, and it ends after you're passing through the legs.
Hello.
You carry the energy on stage and off stage. All of these things that you've heard, but they're all important ingredients. I say the secret's in the sauce.
Sauce.
You don't know what makes it yummy, but you know when it's missing. Is it a bay leaf? Is it oregano? Is it celery salt?
Garlic powder. It's always garlic powder.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever that it's in the sauce. So yes, you could take a less than meat sometimes, because you know what I mean? Like when life hands you lemons, you better have a good sauce. That's all I have to say. But those things are important to the people who created the show. And then like mentorship as far as process and getting information out. Jill Hillier, I mean, I remember when by the time I got to Norwegian, it was 10 years at Stiletto. And she is probably, yeah, I would say she is the one person who consistently supported me unconditionally and had my back and taught me so many things about teaching a show and directing and being there for your cast and being responsible. I'm forever indebted to her. And I remember after my first year at Norwegian, because baby, I went in there like at Stiletto as a term of endearment, we called it Stiletto because it was mom and pop, baby. We were the tech. I remember you had to know that one. What studio were we in? Okay, you got to jiggle that one thing, stand on one leg, and do a sidecar with the other one. You got to juice it up, and then Jubel became the like the mic whisperer. None of the mics worked unless she was at. I don't know what she did over that corner, but and I will never forget it. And I always will cherish this moment, but. We had to do everything. And I learned like a clean environment is what begat like efficient work. So Jill taught me that. Like from now on, if there's props in the room, everything has to have a place. Like I love that for myself in my life, but she's the one who taught me that in the studio. And it served my mentor. Get your mind right is what I was taught at 15. Get your mind right. I mean, we were kicked out of rehearsal. We didn't know our lines. You were supposed to be off book at this scene. Get out of my rehearsal and do not come back until you know your lines. That was 15 years old. We were told that because it's the 6 P's. And you've probably heard me say that too. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. You listen, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Like jump right there. And then my friend Robert Contreras, what did he say? I'm going to butcher this, but I love it. It goes something like that. Don't be upset by the lack of results from the work you didn't do. You know what I mean? Like you're over here feeling some sort of way about your life situation, but you didn't do the work to get the results that you thought you were going to do. So it's all about getting your mind right. And you have to quiet your egoic mind. And you have to be still and just engage in active doing, which there's 3 modalities of active doing. I've always said this, one is acceptance. Whatever the challenge at hand is, you have to accept that it is yours to address and to conquer, essentially. The second modality of active doing is enthusiasm. The Greek etymology of enthusiasm is in the spirit. So you have to quiet your monkey mind and open yourself up to be receptive to a higher being, the spirit, the source energy, right, will then be there to assist you once you have accepted and you've been enthusiastic about the challenge. And the third is enjoyment. You have to enjoy. Whistle while you work. John Sharon said, whistle while you work. If you're the waitress in Roadhouse, when you come out and wipe that, don't just move the dust around. Have you ever been in a bar? You have to get the gunk and there's crumbs. Put your back into it, but while you're doing, whistle while you work, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't but the trick is you cannot get to enjoyment unless you've accepted the challenge or the task, you're enthusiastic about it. then enjoyment is the third, just flows and it just happens naturally. And that is actively doing something. And it doesn't have to be dance or learning a show. It's getting your real estate license. It's getting your GED. It's doing your class, like whatever it is. And just remember, whatever you say, you're right. Oh, I'm no good at math. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, you've convinced yourself.
Right.
You've convinced yourself.
You have to get your mind right. So that's where all of those questions, and like Liza Minnelli, play the why, what I said, find the why. Why am I singing this phrase the way I am? Or I just want to sound like Christina Aguilera. But like not all the time it's technical. Not all the time it's, oh, I'm going to do this run. If you notice the people, I literally just got the chills because I'm thinking about that. Just got it again. You cannot teach some of these things. I laugh or cry when someone goes all the way off.
Hello.
I either laugh hysterically, which is embarrassing when I'm watching a Broadway show or something, and someone just like, if I wouldn't have made it through Dreamgirls, let's just be honest, the original cast, when she goes, Curtis, when I like a man's eyes, very serious. You know, when she's in the phone booth, I would have been laughing hysterically. Or when she's like, and this is Mr. Morgan, my lawyer, and he wants to talk to you, the way she dug in there, forget about it. Anyway, you can't teach those things, but when you are playing the why and you're being authentic and you're addressing the truth, that's when your best work comes out because it's authentic. And it's through that authenticity that people get to see a glimpse of how they might be, right? So therefore you're inspiring. You're a heightened reality of what people are, right? So if they resonate with what you're doing, there's that alchemy. That's that you're sharing, ping pong, right? I give something, the audience gives it back. It's that whole thing. But you can't get that if you're just, okay, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, domo ragazzo, Mr. Roboto.
So I think you said something pretty important too, is like you give, but you also receive in the same sort of manner. And I think when you're considering giving information to people, you learn a lot from how it's bounced back to you. Just a little TO, 2 people that just popped on. Jubel actually started just watching. Yes. Jubes, we were just talking about how great you are on the microphones, on the Britney Spears mics, and then John's watching. John Aaron.
I will do anything for love.
Baby.
And we were just talking about mentors. And sorry, I caught off guard because I saw John was watching. But yes, a question for both of you. Putting in the work. I know somebody just mentioned, I think Aaron he just commented this full out with feeling, putting in the work. Now that we've kind of transitioned into this 2020 sort of environment, putting in the work means so much. How do you guys think mentoring is important now more than ever?
Oh,
ooh.
I was like, do you want me to go?
Go ahead, Calvin.
I think that mentoring like now is even more important because, first thing first is that I will say, I know that I mentor people clearly, because I mean, this is one of the reasons why we ended up doing this podcast, because people wanted me to talk more and try to figure out how did I get to these conclusions in way of life and thinking and expression. And I was telling them so much of my mentors, but also just like how I was like, I never liked those people who just sat and bitched about things and never wanted to do anything. It's like they want the perks with no work. So it's like, instead of being the person that was like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of looking at these new kids, all they do is tricks and no one's telling them, well, then how about I teach? How about I stop bitching about there are no teachers and become one? Help, not criticize, because no one criticized me that way. So why am I doing that? How is that going to help me? How is that going to help them? I can't, you know what I mean? It's like, I was like, oh, that's not me. You can't live that word. You're just, no, do something. Except, okay, you see this artist going in this direction, create this vessel. And why am I doing it? There's no, I want to get these accolades and I want to, no. It's because actually I want you to have access to the same, because you still are going to express how you want to express, but I would love for you to have a foundation that we all did, because dance is sometimes a missing, it's a lost language. Like, I cannot stand a lot of people who love to say the word passe, but when they actually mean retiré and don't know the difference, because the word has the power. If you're not passing the position, that is not a passe, boo. That is withdrawn. You are pulling up. That's retiré. And if you don't speak the language anymore, then we lose it. And we are losing it. And, all jokes aside, we used to say jokes, and be like Chardonnay instead of, but there's some people that you actually could not risk, because let's be honest, we've danced with many of people. I mean, hell, I came in, not knowing, what stage left was, upstage, downstage at first, until I met y'all, and it was like, but if we're not willing to actually fully teach, though, we shouldn't be joking. And that's where it was. It was like, Casey, you would not let no one be in the room, ha ha, he, and if they didn't know the step, TJ would pop in and say this was a joke, but you meant it, you'd be like, is it perfect? And that's why it's like, and I took that as like, ha ha ha, but for real though, I need to take pride in yeah. And of course they yelled at me if I didn't. It's like you said, it's like, then why am I expecting y'all to love it if I gave you half ass?
Yeah. What about you, Casey?
Well, I think now, just as ever, not more than ever, but right now, currently, one important thing to think about, whether you're mentoring or not, if you leave your home, or you go on a Zoom, or you go on to social media with the intent of engaging with other human beings, it is paramount that you realize that everyone is going through something you know nothing about. You need to understand that. Everyone is going through something you know nothing about, so be kind always. If you set that intention before you engage with other people, you're already mentoring, you're already being the light, right? So it's either, like you said, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And that's probably one of the only direct, absolute things that I sort of hold true. Like, you're either helping or you're not. So that's
an important point. That's an important point. We don't know what's happening in people's lives. We can see, and I think Calvin and I just did a whole session about social media. And then, so I think that's kind of the key thing too, is like, we have the idea that people are in this mind frame from what they show us, but we don't actually know 100% what's happening with them. So leading fully by that care. And I think somebody said it, one of you said it before, consistently leading with that care and comfort and safety for other people will only help other people along the way. And you don't know if you're mentoring all the time. You don't know. You're right. You leave your house, and that's something that we learned when we were on the ships. You leave your room and you're on. It didn't matter if you were in an area where passengers couldn't go, or if you didn't think you were going to see anybody. You were on. So you were going to affect somebody's life at some point while you were even, half asleep going to get something to eat.
Right. But one of my
go ahead.
That you're human. So if you're having what we call wobble or contrast, right? You're always trying to have a high vibration. That I read A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle's second book, and my purpose in life is a frequency holder. Yeah. So my insecurity was always quelled, or at least masked, by humor. I always try to be funny. I always try to have a joke, and to me, that decompresses some of that stress. But it's like I'm a frequency holder. So I don't consider myself an empath, but I know that if someone tends to struggle and they've identified me as their sounding board, I will listen, but I will also point out everything where there's a positive, right? So that it's not just a bit session, that they understand that they have the resources within their own story that they're telling to write their situation, right? So I just feel like listening and not just hearing the words that they're saying, but it's identifying, where is this coming from? Like, wake up in the morning, you have to take stock head to toe. How am I feeling? And you have to take responsibility and ownership of that vibration. If you wake up feeling poopy pants, pissy, as Jill would say, you got to acknowledge that. And then you need to do the work to get that under control. You need to gather yourself before you then, those ripples start to affect other people. And that is called social obligation. And I think if we all took it upon ourselves to be obliged socially to others, that we would find there'd be less tension and contrast. Does that make sense? Some people think that's passive and that's not their personality. It's like, okay, well, after you're done rah-rahing and you put yourself in a coma, you know what I mean? Did you get the results that you intended at the end of the day? Are you fulfilled?
No,
and
really.
The answer usually is no.
I couldn't agree more. You talked about energy and that wavelength. It definitely resonates with me completely, especially now in this era of virtual. We discussed it. You touched upon it a little bit. Is that we're completely communicating like this, like on camera. I haven't seen Casey in person in a couple years. I haven't seen Calvin in at least a year, but also communicating with people like that are chiming in that I'm seeing. I have everything set up. So we're communicating like this. So it's finding that positive energy that people can see. I think being like this, you can mask it, like you said. You can mask it with humor when you're in person, but when you're on a platform like this, it's something is more transparent, and you can see what's happening with people, and you kind of almost can develop or kind of have a better insight of what's happening in their life, because you really can't hide humor on here. It's not a bigger tool like if you're in person, or you can deflect easier when you're in person. Rather than on this, we're just kind of being outright upfront with everything and everybody.
Well, and it's also, without going down that rabbit hole, like just recently I guess you could call it, attacked on social media. A friend had posted something, and I posted something, and I responded to someone, and they were like, "Are you brain dead?" P.S. I don't know this person from Adam. And that was his question. And I was like, if we were in person, those words would not fall from your face if we were in person. I guarantee. You don't know me. I've never met you. What is it about people that they feel the freedom to type vitriol and just spew that grossness? It's crazy. But I mean, I just kind of no, I'm actually not brain dead, but I'm actually asking you a question because I want to understand. I mean, complete nonsense. I didn't tell him that, but you know what I mean? Like, it's, again, just even though you have, from the comfort of your own house or your own keyboard, you still have to have that social. I try to edit. I mean, I delete so many times. Like, oh, you would not say it like that if you were in front of their face. Believe me, I have wanted to deliver a lot of hi-yas, like that kind that start with the slow run, and then you're upside their head. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, wake up. But I am socially obliged to engage in a way that I would if you were in front of me. I think that it is totally important, you know. But yeah, so that to me is that social obligation. And that's where you're talking about safety and consistency. I always kind of came up with the analogy, I think that's Stiletto. The rehearsal room is a dojo. I call it a dojo.
Yep.
And you have to respect the dojo, Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi style. This is where our art, our livelihood is developed. You might have done the show before, but I guarantee you, and he used to piss people off. Well, last time you didn't say that. I feel like I'm learning the show all over again. Well, you're welcome. You're actually welcome. Because now you're in a place where you know the choreography. So you're not the basket case if I played the tape back, where you were a disaster and a mess, and you know, all this. You're now calm. So now I might be not saying the exact same words, but the sauce that I'm stirring and brewing is essentially the same.
My favorite.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're more receptive now because you're not in your head. Yeah. So anyway, the dojo is important. That and the stage. That's where we pay our mortgages. That's where we pay off our student loans. That's where we earn our living so that we can continue to create art, right? And then hopefully, if you're smart, you're saving for your future. Because if you're not, what has 2020 taught us? Everyone's over there flossing, they got their car and they look cute. And then all of a sudden it's like, I can't rub $2 together. Do you know what I'm saying? So do not leave, TJ, when you buy your house, don't leave yourself cash poor.
No, I can't. I can't do it. No, I can't do it.
But you know what I mean? It's the dojo. You have to respect what you're doing and respect that other people are on their journey and that there's stuff that you can like learn. I mean, I hate that when people are on their phone where they're not paying attention or they're bored. You know, every note is a note for you. I remember that. I was like, I'll take these notes and Johnny's note. Everyone's note is a note for me. And that's why I love when I would listen to TJ give a note. I was like, I would never have thought that. You know what I mean? Or Jill. I mean, she's just like, and I don't, okay, anyway. But you know what I'm saying? I digress.
But I know, because one of my favorite things was that there was a time period where I like to call myself like the silent like assassin, because I learned so many shows and I was doing so many replacements. And my favorite was all I had to do was say Jill's name, John's name, TJ's name, or Casey's name when I came in to replace someone, because it's like I should be able to just slide right on in. This is the track. It doesn't matter how many times I did the show. When I was in rehearsal with Casey, John, Jill, or TJ, I learned what the steps are. And feeling safe is I should be able to know my track so well that it doesn't matter who comes in. This is on 8, we drop on 4. It was so choreographed so well, but the information was given so well that I was sure. And they'd be like, oh, I just felt like, no, you morphed it. And I was like, look, I just came out the studio and I'm pretty sure Casey's not wrong. Like, and literally I would just be like, well, Casey showed me, and everyone was like, oh my God, this makes count 9. So yeah, y'all were over here not doing your job. You were not doing your job. And so it was like the way that y'all gave that information that I knew like 11 shows. And I remember there was one time Jody called me as I came off of one ship and said, Calvi, hi, I know that is there a possible way that you could turn around, because you've already got your shoot? Like, it was one of those, and I was like, I knew so many shows. I was like, all right, girl, where am I going? Back to Alaska. Oh, which ship is this? Okay, stage and screen. Is that that's the one with the 3 okay, not the Westerdam. Okay, this is a different, like the way that I knew that so much that I was like, the information was given that it was so easy to slide in, and everyone would say, I mean, y'all had us, like I said, in y'all, like you had everything in the pocket. And it was like you said, you respected the dojo. You never called us like M4. No, Calvin, you are stepping here. Ashley, you're like, there was this level of respect of who we are as an artist too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was the dojo. It was even my favorite was, like I said, how we learned shows from y'all. It was John and Jill in the front. Then it would be the cast themselves. Then would be the people who are like the bookkeepers, and it would be you. It would be TJ. Y'all be in the back. And my favorite is watching like when y'all would like partner each other and be like, I'm being the girl, swoop wop, and then you was able to tell us when you taught us another later. You was like, no, actually, because I felt this. So the girl should release here, and I was like, yes. And it was y'all, but yeah, it was like the way you said years ago, like y'all watching you and TJ like tackle a number, and like the way that y'all would come in, like I felt so we would come into the room and you could see y'all had a game plan that was just like, I know my material, you know your material. Where do you want to pick it up? It was never this. Let me go back to the tape, which then you made me notice when there was teachers who had to keep referring to the tape, and I was like, wait, because you feel unsure, you're teaching it to me unsure. Now I feel unsure. You did not respect your job. You make me feel like I am not doing a good enough, you know, and I was like, this isn't, and watching how y'all would clean things up and just be like, you taught me decorum. You taught me decorum in a room. You taught me how to bite my tongue so hard I taste blood sometimes. but for the greater good, because not everything needs to be said.
I think something that I've been thinking about the whole time is situations. Situations not always are the same, you know? So it could be the same one or two of the same people in the environment with us, but because they weren't paired together with the same people going to the same place at the same time, the situation was completely different. So it didn't matter if you knew what was going on. You did not know what was going on in that situation with those people because you didn't know how those people were going to react to you. So I think always leading with that care and knowledge of like not always assuming that people knew what the next step was going to be, and always just kind of delivering it with that passion and that excitement every single time something came out, and not really worrying about the people that had that vibration that just hovered just a little bit below where you were. Because if you lowered yourself to that level, you knew that people were going to be missing out on who you really were as a teacher, as a mentor, as anything. As at any portion of your life, really just lowering your frequency really is going to have a lot more people up here missing out on what you are and who you are.
Brighten up.
Brighten up. But I know I wanted to ask you guys this question. I was thinking about something pretty intensely. This week we found out that Disney was laying off a whole bunch of their shows, like Frozen and a few more Mickey's Magical Map. And also we got the notice that Broadway is not returning until next year. So with that kind of blow into our community, what would be some things that you would tell this generation that's coming up? Specifically, like, I think to myself, this class of 2020 who like kind of right at the end of them wanting to like, what would be like a catapult into the universe, they kind of got shot on from like the world because they had to go, you know, they had to shelter in place and they had to graduate at home. And then they just want to go to Broadway. That's closed. They want to go to Disney. That's closed. They want to be on, then they're like, oh, go to cruise ships. That's closed. What kind of mentoring advice would you give to this next generation with the tools that you already have? What could you share with everybody?
Would you like to go first or me? Because I tell you now, I'm thriving.
Okay. I would say, and this is from personal experience and how I have leveraged this liberty that 2020 has given me. I'm at liberty, as we say. It's something that kind of like, I heard a couple years back. You grow from year to year as a person by the people that you meet and the books that you read. So though you are probably not meeting a lot of people right now, you have so much time. If you're not like you haven't pivoted into a new career, you have so much time to sort of like zen out. You have to allow that ending of one thing. You have to give yourself a window. You have to mourn that loss. You have to feel what that is to you, because a lot of it was you weren't expecting it. Like the class of 2020, they were raring to go. You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of lends itself to that whole notion of bloom or thrive where you're planted, right? That was never a thing as a nomad, as a gypsy, as a person who literally has to travel to go to work. That was a really hard thing for me to do. And I was down on myself a lot in the beginning because I didn't even get a whisper of creativity to write a show or choreograph. No. It's like when you're a dancer and you're at a family party and they're like, dance. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do for work. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like I needed a decompressive moment. But what I noticed, it was like I was in a coma all this time, and now I'm out of it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how do I do that? Like, or a homeowner, or like, how do I do and then you're like, so there was like that little bit of period where I was in flux and like, this is like, whose body am I in? But when I stopped fighting against it and I leaned into the fear and I leaned into the opportunity, I found that like anything, you're a quick study. If you're a lifelong learner and you know what I mean? Like you stop resisting, you will find like anything, you can pick it up. It's just a different language, or it's just a different, what do they call it? A dialect, if you will. So read your books, read. I find that gets my mind right like that. And it makes me just slow down and find other ways to thrive and other ways to find my sense of identity. Because I was like, oh, I'm a director, or I'm this is what I identified who I am by what I do for so long. And that isn't it, kid, as they say. That's not it. And so if you're going crazy right now, it's because you're, again, fighting for that, like there's always going to be another show. There's always going to be another show, right? Like, who was at this saying, well, I'm trying to think of what entertainment looks like in 2029. And it's not butts and seats. I'm like, if it's been since Louis the 14th, butts and seats in a theater, guess what? If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could crawl on the walls and be in the rap. That's fine. It's still going to be a theater. So just keep your craft sharp, keep your mind right and healthy, keep your love for yourself first and then others present. And when that opportunity comes, you'll be ready.
What about you, Calvin? What do you think?
For me, it's like, so I had to tell people, and I tried my best to not scream. It's like, they were like, I'm so sorry about Broadway. I was like, why are you apologizing to me? Do I seem sad? First of all, did I say I'm going to Broadway? Yeah. Did I make it? Sure did. Every day I walked in there, everybody who worked with me know I was up in there like, how you doing? Happy to be here. Blessed, black. What you doing? Yep, ready, off book. I'm excited. I'm here to tell this story. I wanted this. I prayed for this. I earned this. So every day. So when they was like, oh, bro, I said, yes, I accepted it and said, okay, one, I'm thankful that they thought about my safety because we were in tech, which means I was at my most acceptable to it because I was exhausted. We're working all hours of the night. We don't see outside, so we were like immune deficient. And like one person sneezes, everybody got a cold. You know what I mean? Oh. And so I was like, great, let's not play. Sorry, y'all noticed I'm sitting on the floor. I had to go sit by my charger because my phone was finna die. And I was like, ooh, girl. But no, I was like, okay, I'm accept that. And what I said to folks is that, first of all, the pandemic never stopped my hustle. It's never affected my hustle because that's what I was taught from Casey is to be a quick study. It is on my resume as a quick study because I'm like my favorite it's like because Casey would say, you're always plugged in. I'm like, yes, you taught me to be. Once you expressed how wide the scene was actually, when you taught me about everything you said, I was like, yeah, I never thought at first like, oh, we start the scene in the wings. So that's what it is. It's like, okay, what am I doing now? I said that I wanted to dance and I've always wanted to have time. I've got time. Okay, so what am I waiting for? No one but me. I accept that I am my own boss. Everybody out here going, I'm a boss. I'm a boss when you acting like an employee because who you waiting for? Who you waiting for? And I learned that. I accepted it and said, okay. So I knit, as you see, I've got bundles. I was like, I'm just going to start creating. I'm creating. And then I'm also incorporating dance in it. You see that I learned makeup. I learned that way because when Casey showed me Sid Charisse, I was over it. I was like, girl, when you show me silk stockings, the red blues, you had the nerve. Everybody know who worked with me because I be like, inspiration of the day. Like when you go into the show, because I know you've done this 100 times. But today, we going to do it this way consistently, but with this kind of drop. Like, because I enjoyed every much. So to me, this is the new renaissance. This is the go-get season. This is the chance because it knocked capitalism down so hard that you realize you have your power. You just graduated into your power. Now do something with it. That's what I was taught from my mentors. So even sometimes my mentors become my students when y'all would hear me say, no. You said you're going to do this. You can do it. Don't sit there and say you can't. And don't be surprised at my mouth because you taught me. because I am the living word, because of I am what you told me. You sowed this into me because you saw the seeds I wanted to sow. You feel me? It's like, and so that's like, so to the kids who graduated, okay, take your moment, take your time, because yes, you have to let that dream mourn, because guess what, boo? Clearly it didn't work. If it worked, it would have survived, right? It's not working. Now it's time to create that work you want to be. All of this, oh, I'm going to accept these jobs with no humane practices. No, I'm not. And I'm not going to tell the next generation you have to earn your dues, because as long as we keep that, that's the cycle we keep in. So what I'm going to do is take my chance to pick up the reins. I don't see enough BIPOC creators. Guess what I'm creating now? That's what it is. This is the time. What did I go to school for? Now it's time to apply. Stop practicing preaching and apply it first. Be the living word. You feel me? So to those kids, you are unlimited, because guess what? Now there's nothing but space and opportunity. I don't want to hear an excuse of why you're not. I want to hear a reason why you're doing it. Thank you. I learned that from y'all. Thank you. And good night. But for real though, because look at everything. We made this podcast. Where did you think it came from? Where did it come? This is part of the mentorship. We are speaking because these voices need to be heard. These stories need to be told. And they're not for the agenda to be like, now I want you to be a devout, whatever. No, it's unlimit yourself, practice what you preach, and understand that your words are powerful. You can do exactly what you say, because you ain't going to do what you not. Because how many times you hear say, I bet I won't? That's a done deal. So then I speak into it. So I enjoyed Broadway, and I made my Broadway debut. I had 3 successful shows. You hear how I describe it? I had 3 successful shows. We are coming back. I have that faith. I tell everybody, I said, do not come to me with this. Oh, but what? First of all, we got racial inequalities to deal with. Okay, that's what's on the agenda. I don't care about no show tunes. I care about this is the space and opportunity to actually fix it and stop being the person bitching behind the scenes and not talking to the ear that needs to hear it. Stop accepting the things that you want to accept and not really, because you wanted to be here, right? Act like it. If you don't want to be here, make way. It's like I told everybody when I left the Met is prestigious. It may not have been the right spot for me, but it is still prestigious because I believe into that. I subscribe to it, and it was. But if I am not right for that moment, how about I get out of the way? So someone who wants to be there can be there, because what is meant for me is meant for me, and what is not is not. So if I get what is not out of my way, it will help me live. And you see how you keep it pure. You keep it prestigious, because then that is the type of actor I am. Everybody understands that. So in these moments, it's, what are we going to do? Well, we have this opportunity. Are you going to build this sauce that you know now? Because you should know the recipe now. You are the chef now. Right. Make the sauce.
Yeah.
And
for
those
sure.
people really
go ahead.
I was just saying, but we talked about the people who are graduating, but the Disney family, there's always going to be a show, and your family. I mean, I have lifelong friends. When I first started working there 26 years ago, I still have a Wednesday house party with them. They're my family. It's like, I love all of the different people's profile pics with Disney family, because it's true. They'll never close that tie, right? But at the moment of commitment, the universe conspires to assist you. That's Seneca, right? So just know you may not be able to go back and have that last show, which is devastating. But just think about that table read of the next show, because there's gonna be one, and it's gonna be so great. And I trust that the people who are the ones that are sort of navigating what that next show is going to be, it should be fierce, because they've had all of this downtime to really design something special, and they have you in mind. So if you're really feeling like you're on the outside of things, it's just because we're communicating like this. And sometimes you're not. You feel outside the loop. You're still in the loop. Just trust and be fully committed to what is, I guess. And then when it all opens up, you'll be there.
Bernard has a question for us, but I want to just to chime in a bit on this topic as well. I remember when I was starting out in LA, they said you only can, as much as you give, you'll get back. So if you're not going to fully give in and just kind of go with it, you're not going to get anything back from it. And I think performers are really resilient. And I think performers, people in entertainment, behind the scenes, everybody in the entertainment industry are resilient people because they've had to learn that within the industry. So I feel like even if you are still graduating, or you're still new, or even if you're in school still, you still are you're learning all of those traits to become a resilient person in the environment. And with this pandemic in place, I think we've all kind of touched on this in a different fashion, is planting the seed, something now to see it grow in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, 10 years. We lived in such a time where it was instant gratification. So you wanted to plant something and you wanted it to see it grow. But what I've realized is you plant those seeds a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, with mentors, with friends, with people in the community, making those partnerships, making those relationships with people, solidifying them. So when the time comes and you need it, it flourishes into something that you didn't even think was possible. In this pandemic, we've really had to shift our entire framework of how we operated. And we're now, most of us are at home, or we fully pivoted into something completely that we didn't consider before because that seed wasn't planted. But now is the time to buckle down, plant that seed. You've left an environment maybe that you were comfortable with before, and now is that time to get past that flinch moment, to get yourself into that next place in your life. And who knows, like Calvin was saying, somebody that maybe that avenue wasn't right for you, but now you've had the opportunity to shift, pivot, get into that uncomfortable moment, flinch past it, and now maybe this is the right thing for you. And all of those things. And I know that's what you were talking about, Casey, with what you're doing now. But what Bernard wants to know is how would we recommend the graduating class of 2020, I'm guessing high school or college, utilize their talents to create opportunities for themselves to receive income?
Oh, see, I always laugh because money questions always gag me because I'm a passion person. It's like I always say, I never have money, but I always seem to have it. I love to look back every year and be like, how did I pay for New York, Lord? How did I pay for this? Like, because I do everything with passion, and with it, I feel rich in it. So, but to make money, it's like this. I always say, if you're going to do it to make money, make sure that you stay in control. Be your own boss. Do not be an employee, because when you are trying to monetize something, come up with an achievable goal. Come up with what your idea of success is for the project, because when you know what success is for the project, then you know what you're aiming for, and then you will know how to monetize off that. Like how, for instance, I'm creating my line called Design by Decorum, and I said, I don't want to be in the point where I'm making made to order, because I feel that sometimes there's fluxes where, there'll be like 22 orders and then there'll be and I don't want to get to the point where I'm like, oh my God, and I have a 3-day. Make it achievable. Understand what the goal is, understand what is success, and then from there you will find how to make that money. Because, for instance, I had to think about cost of yarn. What am I offering? How much? So by quieting my mind and getting my mind right, amen, it's like, what is success to me, and what is the money? Because now some people keep going, I want to make money, and then they keep wanting to gain more money, and then they realize you're not actually doing what you said you're doing. You're just chasing money. That's a whole different thing. So make sure that you know that you want to make money. Okay, how much money do you want to make? And just leave it there. I just want to make this much. Okay. And then focus on enjoying your time, and you'll be making that money because you've got the focus, you got the base. But that's where you said the enjoyment comes in, the enthusiasm. I am making these hats because, at some point it's going to warm people, say this is going to look cute. And, I want to be able to make $200 extra on income. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to sell it in these blocks. And I'm going to do it just like that. And I'm going to release it here. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm focused. I'm up. You see, TJ, you seen how many times I sent you a photo, like you said today. I sent you a photo of every step of the bag I made for my house today. I was like, look at this and look at this. And I made, because I was enjoying understanding how to spend money in my business, where it's like, oh, this is $1.99. Because now I'm thinking about saving money and making money. So then how to, you see where the focus is. The focus is still in the passion of, I'm creating these beautiful hats, beautiful gowns, these beautiful hats. And it's like, that's where that joy is. So the money, so keep your passion and you will be rich. You will be rich. It isn't actually about money, because no, it's about passion. What are you doing and why are you doing it? And the money will flow in.
Yeah. What about you, Case?
I think my advice is kind of the same, along the same lines as Calvin. What you're gonna do, okay, zooming all the way out, you're gonna read one book. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Quick little story. I was told about this book by my cousin Marshall. And he was like, this is gonna be a life changer. Okay, so I read it. I went on the Pride of America, my birthday cruise, my best friend Barry, and I was reading it at breakfast on the back of the ship, and this gorgeous African-American woman in all white linen with a hat comes over and she goes, excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that you're reading this book. I was sitting across the way. How did you find out about this book? And I said, well, my cousin Marshall told me about it. She goes, your cousin loves you very much. She said, I have that book and I've read it several times, so much that the binding is broken. It is a Bible. When it comes to money and how to think about money, talk about get your mind right, this book, and you have to read it at your own pace. So it's the fathers of industry, Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, JP Morgan. They all were in the club, right? I call them the fathers of industry. They are the ones who had this lateral thinking, right? Like Henry Ford. What do I need to know how to add math? I've got an accountant. I push a button and then it rings that office and I ask what the figure is. And I've got a living calculator. Leveraging other people's time is what people were talking about. But anyway, Think and Grow Rich. Andrew Carnegie had this one philosophy. He told Napoleon Hill. He said, this is what I know to be true. It's alchemy. It's like ancient Gnostic religion, intelligence. Basically, it's the secret and law of attraction and all of this. And he said, I'm going to give you the secret to my success. I want you to teach it at your university, and I want you to study it for 20 years. If it, in fact, has a positive effect on your students, I want you to then write a book and publish it so that the world could have it. It's a little known secret. A lot of people probably heard of it. It's called, again, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It was written, again, Andrew Carnegie. It's the turn of the century, so it's a little old-timey. When you're reading it, you might have to read the chapter twice. It's old-timey, you know what I mean? Like, it's like one should not walk down the street with his shoulders. Hold your posture and hold a pen in between. Well, this is not what he said, but I was like, if you're struggling, put a pen between your teeth. It's a smile, and physiologically, you think that you're enjoying yourself. So when you smile through it, basically, this book is going to teach you to zoom out. I wanted to buy a house. I didn't ask how much money more per hour I needed to make. I didn't ask how much more per day I needed to make. I said, how much annually is the mortgage? All right, that's the number I need to make more per year. And then it teaches you, what am I prepared to do to procure those funds? Yeah. Right? So you first, who owes me money? call in those debts first and foremost. Some people might be able to do it, some people won't. But who owes me money who is actually still working? Those are the first people, right? If you're just coming out of high school, there's master classes online. Offer your services to your teachers, your mentors, to people that you know that are teaching online. Try to have speaking engagements, leverage other things that put you into rooms and rendezvous with other people. If you are coming out of college, teach however you can. Use your skills. You're probably really good things. Have you ever heard of a Venn diagram, right? You have circles, right? 3 concentric circles, and right in the middle is the sweet spot. So one circle is, what are you good at? One circle is, what do you enjoy doing? And what the other last circle is, just like in business, which you learn in business school, what is the need? Identify a need in not only in our industry, but anywhere. Where is there a need? If there's not already a job or an opportunity, you create one for yourself. If you're good at it, you enjoy doing it, and there's a need, that's that's viable. And then the barriers of entry, you get into all those like the minutia of like business plan and all that. But just find there are so many things that you might be good at, that you enjoy, that you can actually leverage and capitalize on. So that's what I say. So again, but it starts with zooming out and getting your mind right around money.
Yeah, I definitely am kind of in the same boat with you. I think knowing your endless possibilities. I know that might sound a lot, but I had to tell somebody, they were like, I can't do that, or this isn't happening for me. And I had to say, you have to tap yourself on the shoulder and you have to say, self, get out of my way. Because only you can put a barrier in place for yourself. Nobody else is going to do that for you. So because something gets hard, you put a barrier up. And so that gives you an excuse to not do that anymore. And that's something that I learned when I was starting my podcast. I would put all the barriers in place because I was scared about what I didn't know, or I was scared about going down this road about something that was different that I had no clue about. So to protect my own self, I said, all right, that's it. Boom, wall. And I was happy living safe in the environment that I was. So just knowing that there's an endless possibility, specifically with this generation that we're in, or the generation that's coming up, they have technology is more endless for them. So your reach and your scope is further than what we had, because like you were saying, we had VHS. We were shipping out our headshots and resumes on, and like little DVDs. Like we had to get those. Now people can see you online. Curate the experience that you want people to see and that you never thought was possible, because that's you doing it. And only person that's going to stand in your way is you. And I will say this, I've told Calvin this a couple of times. For some reason, I leave my calendar open on my counter. I look at it in the morning when I wake up to make sure that I am on time for my appointments. And I leave it open, because when somebody says, "Are you available?" Yep, I know exactly where it is. And it's almost like I'm opening myself up to the possibility of working, receiving those thanks and those wants from other people that will in turn switch over into money. Yeah. And my time is money. So that right there on the counter is my money, is my bank. That's my time. So how I dole it out to people, and I know in my head how much time I have every single day. I can afford to give that out to people. So it's going against maybe everything we learned in the past of like, oh, you have to bank all the money. You're saving all your money. You are, but your time is more valuable when it comes to paying out for things. So knowing your 40 hours a week, your 50, your 60, what you're going to offer to people and having that available, it's like, boom. It's like flies on shit.
It's like flies on pins,
right? Swerving in. So I think that's for my advice to all these, especially 2020 graduates, or not even 2020 graduates, anybody. Now is the time. We're ready to make that shift. You're your own endless possibility, and you got to know what's important to you. And that's, for me, that's my time. Here you go.
Yep. And I want to add on to that, TJ, because you were saying like those barriers, that fear barrier, that is a natural instinct to protect yourself. Yep. But if you think of it from this way, I learned it in one of my webinars for real estate. There's levels of ability in any certain thing. So if you're starting a new venture, it's something that you enjoy, something that you're good at, and there's a need, but you feel like you have no experience. And maybe your clients or the people who are going to be utilizing and paying for your services are looking for someone a little bit more mature, more, experienced in it. You have to just look at it as the first level is unconscious incompetency. So you are not aware of what you don't know. That's level number one. So you're going to work and scratch and ask questions. People want to help. So if you look at someone who's thriving in an area that you're trying to break into, ask them to coffee or a Zoom. And what you're going to do is you're going to ask them, how did you start? What was your biggest hurdle? Because the next level is conscious incompetency. You are aware of what you don't know and what you're not good at. So then you can now start a plan, right? But you cannot get to that second level without the digging, the zooming out, and assessing the landscape. Like any surveyor, right? Lewis and Clark, they had the, you know what I mean, like pave the way. So then after conscious incompetency, there's conscious competency. Then there's unconscious competency. So you don't know how you're good at it. You just are competent. You couldn't tell someone how well you do it. And then there's mastery. That's the last level. So it's when you are not zoomed out enough to be able to look something logistically in that manner, that to me helped me tap the shoulder, just like you said, TJ, get out of my own way. Fear is not part of the equation because I'm able to look at it academically or logically, right? So first of all, know what you don't know, and then find out how are you going to get that information. Because this thing right here, I always say, we always joke, how dare you be that stupid with a smartphone? Don't be that guy. Anything you need to know is at your fingertips. So use that resource, but get out and ask people who are doing it. They want to help.
That's so.
Everyone wants to mentor someone.
Yeah. You have to find it within yourself to ask for that help. And because people are so willing to help right now, but you have to ask. They're not just going to come and say, blah, 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 and give you all the information, you know? You have to be able to ask for that. And we're in comfortable places right now. I'm home. So of course I'm going to be able to comfortably say, hey, listen, Casey, like, what do you think about this? And it just kind of just organically grows. P.S. My sister just commented she just ordered the book.
Oh yes, and those poi balls. Yes, Yade.
Bonnie's getting the poi balls.
And Bonnie, what's up, mommy? What's up, Miss Bonnie?
But so just wrapping this up, thank you for that question, Bernard. It really kind of helped us kind of think a little bit deeper about all of that, because money was never really something that I considered with my mentors. I never had to pay for that advice for them. I was around and it was given freely. And you took what you wanted. It was like breadcrumbs. And you were the one to either take all of the breadcrumbs, or you were the one maybe here and there and you took those, but it was free. You never had to pay for it. So that was something that I was so happy about in my career, that I had amazing, amazing mentors. But Casey, I know you talked about it briefly in the beginning, but what are you doing now? How did you pivot in 2020? How did you take what you know now into something that you're doing currently?
Well, first, like I said, I took the reality of the situation, and it is what it is, right? Like I am not in control of when we come back. So I'm not going to spend 1 calorie of energy worrying about that date, first and foremost. I have a nest egg that I have been adding to for times like this. Thank God that I did that. But a book told me to do it. So what I did was I have the Start Today journal. I had done the 5-second journal with Mel Robbins. Get it? It's a life changer. And then I did the Start Today, like Girl Wash Your Face. That author, I don't remember her name. I didn't read her book, but I was given this journal. Basically, you have to picture yourself in 10 years. And so it was like a creative writing exercise. In 10 years, I'll have accomplished these 10 goals. And then in the book, you start by putting 5 things you're grateful for. You raising your vibration to one of gratitude, and it's like an antenna. You're putting an antenna and opening yourself up to receive inspiration, to receive the gifts and abundance that the universe has for you. But then it says to write each goal as if you've achieved it. So I started that back in October. And religiously every morning, and it just helped. It's like a brain dump. And it was like
just one real quick. October, like 1 year ago.
October 2019.
Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm.
Oh, 1 year ago. Oh my, gross. So gross. So 1 year ago, how? But see, I passed the time planting my seeds, tending my garden, putting that fertilizer and turning in the soil and just being happy I have a field in which to plant. Anyway, number 10 on my list was I have my real estate license. And so I was like, I'm gonna move that one up to today. And so I spent a good month researching online, because I didn't just grab the first one. I did the Yelp, I phoned a friend, you know, and I got a lot of great advice from people just by asking. And it was a great way to catch up with people and, do you have any advice, blah, blah, blah. So there was a 3-week program. It was 3 days a week, 8 hours a day. And I had missed the window by 2 or 3 days. And I was so upset. But the customer service person's like, listen, I'm just gonna put you in the 9-day program, the 9-day crash course, and just do the first day, because in the 3-week, it's the first 2 days, then a day off, then Thursday. So if you don't like it, you could always just postpone and pick up those classes later, because you didn't have to in this program. It's a live stream, Zoom type of situation. You didn't have to go in order. So I'm up there, baby. I got the Set for Success. It was a Memorial Day discount, 40% off. They sent me the book, the 2,000 flashcards, and it's like studying law. It's a law course. It's real estate law. But you just have to, like, again, at the moment, and I was like geeking out, because as a 9-year-old, I used to draw houses and floor plans, and I'd sell them to my dolls. Guys, I'm like literally living my childhood dream. So I was like, so how are you gonna finance, 9 years old, how are you gonna finance this house? Well, we have a mortgage company. We can set you up, fill out, and I'd have like type out, you know what I mean? So it was like, it was fun for me. So it didn't feel like work. Believe me, by day 4, I was like, my brain is on fire. I am like, I'm going to strangle that one lady who doesn't know how to mute her mic. I swear to God. It is Zoom. So anyway, and I just loved it. And I had a mentor friend of mine I went to high school with, David Sidoni, brilliant realtor. Talk about a person who pivoted, got married, had kids, was like, I need a grown-up job. He was like on Roundhouse. He was in Newsies. He was the at DCA. He hosted Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Just a brilliant actor, dancer, person. And I was like, oh, he's perfect. So he's been my mentor along the way. But yeah, I just was like, if I wasn't a director, came one day, one afternoon, and we were having, like, I had family over. And they're like, what would you do if you weren't directing? And I was like, I have no idea. And then my niece's nephew was saying, would it be something to do with like houses or like real? I was like, yes, real estate. So it just was like, I knew that it was a lot of work. I wasn't going to get any money right away, but it was something that I could leverage. And when we do get back up as an independent contractor, I'm my own boss. So I hung my license at a no-fee brokerage. It's $25 a month. It's like a club. And whenever I sell a house or help someone buy a house, one transaction, there's like a $250 transaction fee. So I chose a way that I had control over how much productivity that I actually engaged in. So like right now, I'm full-time. Like I'm getting out there, I'm working leads. I've got working with the escrow officer who gave me in one zip code 2,000 renters. So I'm checking against the do not call list. And all of these things I learned just by listening and by webinars and reading. So it's again, not knowing what I don't know and just trying to get my way. And before I know it, if I just do how I did like at Stiletto, and have those mentors and being consistent, I got a commission from California. They just went into escrow. I've got another commission from California coming. I've got one in Florida and one in Connecticut. And that was just by working my sphere of influence, because all of the people I know as a gypsy don't live in Arizona.
Yeah. Luckily enough, we have people that don't live near us.
Like, I've only lived here for 2 years. And in the 2 years that I lived here, I was in Florida, or I was in Italy, or I was in Greece, so And then because of COVID, we're not doing social events. But I joined the Facebook group.
Yes, you did.
I'm commenting and I'm just doing the work. And so when it cools down and we do a social distance hike, the hikes out here are actually incredible. Jill Hillier is the one who inspired me to join the hike group.
Yeah,
she's getting her hike on out there. But you know what I mean? Like, then you just take it one step at a time, and you realize, apart from your craft, you are a person who enjoys other things. So yeah, that's what I ended up doing. But I'm keeping one eye out. Like, I'm pulling out shows just to see. I'm gonna dust this one up.
No, but you're exactly right. Because we're in the entertainment industry as performers and we're doers, where you get shown something once and you do. So you get shown something once, it doesn't matter what you do. You get shown how to input something into the computer. You get shown once and then you do, because that's the way we learned. So I think hiring people in the entertainment industry is so beneficial in any sort of market. They're doers and they're out there to make things happen because that's how they had to. And I think you made a great pivot because you've grown up in that society where you were your own boss, you were your own manager, you were your own PR, you were your own social campaign, because you were a one-man show, but you're also the product as well. So it goes hand in hand with being in the entertainment industry as an independent contractor and being a real estate agent and being anything where that takes, your own drive to get you going. I think it seems like a natural progression. But I wanted to thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of that advice with all of us and everybody that watched. Thank you. I thought it was, we're almost at an hour and 50 minutes. And can you believe that this is what we do on a week to week, month to month basis? We just get on and we talk for hours, and it's incredibly, for my soul, I feel so much, it feels quenched when I get to talk to people like this and kind of feel inspired and artistic at the same exact time. So I thank you for coming on, Calvin. It's, of course, every single time.
I'm just cheesing, child. It's like the way you talk about the books. I'm like, this is where it's at. This is the source that unlimited me. And I'm also gagged on us wearing black and white. Like we have some type of memo. I'm gagged.
My black shirt. Sorry, I wanted a little color.
It's okay. I have a little color for you.
Calvin, TJ, the same thing. Those people who are watching, I have no idea who's out there apart from the people that you had said. But the names that you called out, I love you guys so much. I see you, I follow you, and pride, exactly like you said, TJ. All those people that they've always been that way. Mm-hmm. So since I've noticed them, Erica is the most entrepreneurial. Talk about getting her done. Erin Neely,
she was
are you kidding? Waterford, crystal clear. These are people who, it's not a pivot because they're always. It's like tennis, like John Sharon and his tennis. You got to be on the balls of your feet. So it's not a pivot. It's what is happening. You know what I mean? And I see it every day when you guys post and update in your stories. You are out there killing it. And it's not every day is easy. I know it. But you're still consistent and you're being authentic out there. And it's inspiring. I'm inspired by all those names that you called out. And then the two of you with this podcast, that wall, the products, all of that.
I know my wall's coming down. I'm leaving. I'm moving.
It's moving. But we'll get into that at another podcast. I found Sarah.
Story. Never mind.
That's another story. Sarah's last name, I remembered it. It's Drolet. Do you remember Sarah Drolet?
Sarah
Drolet. That's her.
Yeah.
I just got married and she got a
$5.
Yeah. So, and then also Bernard just chimed in. He says, "Thanks for the book recommendation. She's in the cart." So you've sold a couple books. You need to get a affiliate code from Amazon, so that you would have already had two. Excellent. So Calvin, we'll be back in a couple of days' time for some more things. But thanks for joining us, Casey. It's always great.
Yes.
Always appreciative. I'm glad people can see and be part. And thanks for doing my podcast. And if people want to hear more about you, they can go on to E's podcast. And we had a great conversation there about you and how you grew up. And even, before the pandemic, how you were inspiring others. So it's great. Calvin, I love you.
Yeah. I love you. I love you, Casey.
I'll see y'all.
Calvin.
We'll see all you guys soon. Bye.
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 Thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow TidalWave on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. TidalWave is produced in conjunction with E's Podcast. You can find E's Podcast on all major podcast platforms.